Integrity of Joseph Chambers is a 2022 psychological drama written and directed by Robert Machoian. Machoian is a filmmaker I really appreciate. I think he is criminally underrated for his bold approach to storytelling and captivating presentation. His most famous film is 2020's The Killing of Two Lovers, which premiered at the Sundance Film Festival. He is, however, the writer of the soon-to-be-released film Omaha. All of his narrative feature films are great. Even his very first narrative film, When She Runs, I feel is a great achievement and showcases Machoian's incredible talent in filmmaking. It also seems to have been scrubbed from the internet because the only way I could watch the film was in low quality on some shady Albanian website. But yeah, I still think it's a great film. But today I'm going to be talking about the film from him that is considered a bit mixed. Released in 2022, The Integrity of Joseph Chambers is his lowest rated film, which I really think is a shame because I truly do believe this film is a masterpiece. Robert Machoian movies aren't exactly crowd-pleasing popcorn movies. They cover dark, depressing topics with flawed individuals. His films essentially follow a structure akin to a tragedy, where there is a slow, continuous buildup of bad things happening, and it builds and builds and builds, creating this sense of dread and anxiety. From the very first time I saw the opening to The Killing of Two Lovers, I was completely enthralled by the presentation that it had. When we start the film, we hear heavy breathing, and then we cut to an extreme close-up of a bearded man looking distraught. We then see a woman who's sleeping next to a man in her bed. We then cut back to the bearded man, and he's revealed to be holding a pistol. He immediately points it at the lovers, before retreating when the sound of a toilet flushes from outside the room. It is an incredibly compelling opening on its own, which I feel is deeply enhanced by its incredible sound design. A prominent trademark in Robert Machoian films is the incredible attention to detail in crafting a hypnotic soundscape that pulls you right into the world, and that is something that is taken to the next level in The Integrity of Joseph Chambers. This film features a meticulously crafted soundtrack that works alongside the sound design. In fact, it takes it a step further. There are sections in the film where the music is pseudo-diegetic to the scene. There isn't any literal music playing in the scene, but it feels reflective of the character and his emotions, while simultaneously incorporating sounds from the environment. Twigs snapping, winds howling. This adds depth and interpretation to the film while keeping it captivating and engaging.
30 seconds means a lot when there's no sound. It doesn't mean a lot when there is sound. So it's kind of an interesting kind of process that we started developing in Killing Two Lovers, and in this one it was pushed even further.
But let's dive into the main meat of this film, the story. The story follows a man named Joseph Chambers, as he decides to go hunting for the very first time by himself. What was planned as a normal hunting trip turns south, as we see in the film. Now I want to bring up the main theme of this film, which is hinted to in the title: integrity. Integrity is defined as the quality of being honest while having strong moral principles. Having integrity is a state of perception and how other people perceive you. This film heavily deals with perception in terms of masculinity, personality, and morality. This is established from the very opening shot, where we see Joseph shaving out a mustache at the mirror while saying a famous Western quote, imitating Clint Eastwood.
Hey, lady, hell's coming for breakfast.
Clint Eastwood was a very prominent figure in Western cinema and was often looked to as the go-to tough guy macho persona, something that Joseph strives to be. Joseph moved into the area where his wife grew up in order to start a family. He is a bit of an outsider. He's from the city and he sells insurance, while the people in the town are more akin to farmers or factory workers. Joseph is deeply embarrassed by this, and he is seeking to prove himself with this hunt. From the very opening shot, we are led into the fact that Joseph is very misguided in his goal. The quote that Joseph is saying is from the 1976 film, The Outlaw Josie Wales, and while it is a famous quote, it is also commonly misattributed to Clint Eastwood's character. Eastwood's character never says the line in the film. The line is said by character Lone Wadey, played by Chief Dan George.
Get ready, little lady. Hell is coming to breakfast.
It is such a common misconception that if you were to Google the quotes, the automatic AI response tells you that the quote comes from Clint Eastwood. Joseph is so infatuated with becoming a figure of masculinity that he doesn't even realize that his goal is based on completely fabricated ideas.
It's Clint.
It's a very prominent theme seen throughout the film. After he finishes shaving, he tries to use a line on his wife.
Hell's coming for breakfast, I got it.
She isn't impressed, and even begins to poke fun at the quotes.
So is it the actual location that's coming for breakfast, or is hell actually coming for breakfast? Like, is it like, get ready, little lady, Friars Club is coming for breakfast? Or is it, hey, little lady, Walmart is coming for breakfast? Because I need to know how many places is that.
And even though she is a bit pulled off by this mustache,
What is that?
Oh, you mean this?
Well, hell is coming for breakfast. Satan, Hitler?
You love it.
No.
she's still supportive of him.
It does look good.
That's right.
It does.
Now, hold on.
Oh, wow.
No, hold on.
Honey, why don't you hop back into bed?
They have a mild argument in the kitchen where it's clear that this is something that he's been planning for a while. She's concerned about him going out on his own, as well as how he's been trying to ingrain himself with social aspects of the town, specifically the mindset centered around preparing for a coming apocalypse. In the United States, especially in the southern states, there's a common fascination with the apocalypse, to an extent where people plan with anticipation for it. They look forward to the fall of society, a place without law and order, where only the strong survive. A parallel can be drawn between this and the lawlessness of the Old West that Joseph has a fascination with. Joseph tries to justify this decision as a way to learn how to provide for his family. Eventually, she lets him go, but as he leaves, he begins to second-guess his decision. He drives to his friend Doug in order to borrow a rifle and truck. From here, it should start to be abundantly clear that Joseph should not be trusted with a rifle. Within seconds of getting the gun, he accidentally points it in the direction of Doug's head.
Sorry.
Doug gives him instructions with getting to the private property where he can hunt. However, he also shows concerns about Joseph hunting alone, suggesting that he wait until next week so he can accompany him. Joseph insists that he is ready. He wants to prove himself as capable because he feels looked down to upon others. However, based on the dialogue from his family and Doug, they seem to love and respect Joseph. Though they are shown to poke fun at him, it's still pretty clear that they see him as a good guy that they respect. When Joseph finally gets into the woods, we begin to see what kind of person he really is when he's not around other people. As he walks through the woods, he begins playing around with the gun, acting like he's a soldier in a war zone, similar to like how a young kid might play. However, as he walks into the woods, the soundtrack plays a somewhat ominous tone. It's a very clear juxtaposition to what Joseph appears to be feeling at the moment.
Joe is kind of going into the woods, and we have this relationship, and we talked a lot about like how is the woods responding to this. You know, this horrific event occurs, but forests themselves spend a lot of time witnessing that all the time. Animals are there surviving. We began to discuss a lot about like, well, how would they feel about this? And like, well, animals are really doing this to survive. This is done out of, you know, carelessness, and then what precedes is even worse.
The music represents the untamed nature and the randomness and chaos of it that Joseph is walking right into. The sound design does take an expressionist turn as, while Joseph is settling into the deer stand, an audience cheer can be heard. Joseph dozes off for a bit, and when he comes to, it is now midday. Joseph continues trying to look for a deer for a moment before he eventually gives up and just starts fooling around. The sound design is used to portray Joseph's imagination. He first imagines himself as a pitcher in the 1991 World Series.
Strike three! Joseph Chambers has won!
Series, the Minnesota Twins are victorious. Joseph Chambers is the MVP. He was just incredible. Ladies and gentlemen, there was never any doubt. We knew he could pull it off. And tonight,
Now, there's actually something very interesting about this scene, and in order to explain that, I'm gonna have to talk a little bit about the 1991 World Series. Now, please bear with me, because my only experience of baseball was on Wii Sports. The 1991 World Series is often looked at as one of the greatest games of baseball in history, for a number of different reasons. Now, both of the teams that were playing were both placed last in their respective divisions in the previous year, and both of them had an incredible turnaround to reach the championship. Both teams were underdogs. Next was the intense pitching duel taking place between Jack Morris of the Twins and John Smoltz of the Braves. Both pitchers were giving perfect pitches, striking out the opposing team before either could score. For 10 straight innings, the score was 0-0. Any mistake could cost the team the game. On top of that, neither pitcher swapped out. Both Jack Morris and John Smoltz stayed in for the entire game, which is also pretty unprecedented. Jack Morris was also a veteran player. At 36, he was nearing the end of his career.
Tim, I find this fascinating, just watching Smoltz and Morris duel. Can you imagine what it was like for John Smoltz as a kid? He's 12 years younger than Jack Morris, playing in the backyard, being a Tiger fan, and Morris was his hero. You always dream about what it's like, to play in a situation like this, and now you're watching a guy do it in real life.
The incredible strain of throwing 126 pitches is unimaginable, but Morris refused to be taken out of the game, demanding to finish what he started.
Morris with the fastball, the high fastball, the splitter, an occasional slider.
The Twins finally won the World Series when Gene Larkin hits a walk-off single, ending the game. Now let's return to Joseph Chambers. Joseph clearly is imagining himself in the place of Jack Morris. However, in this imaginary scenario, the game is won by a strikeout pitch instead of a single. To Joseph, pitching a perfect 10-inning game isn't enough of a glory. He also has to win the game itself. This showcases Joseph's desperate need for praise and validation. It is also very possible that baseball was a previous fixation that Joseph latched onto while he lived in the city, and he simply shifted his interest to match the environment he now found himself in. He then begins to march around and sing an improvised song about being a mustache man.
I'm the mustache man, king of the mountain, here I stand. I'm the mustache man, king of the woods, yeah, here I stand. I'm the mustache man, I'll catch it, I'll kill it any way I can.
Before he suddenly spots the very thing that brought him out to the woods in the first place. He begins to chase the deer with a rifle in hand. But as he is on its trail, he gets startled by a branch breaking in the distance, causing him to shoot at it blindly. He follows in the direction of the shot, and he is surprised to find a sort of makeshift camp out there in the middle of the woods. And as the audience begins to question what's going on, the camera slowly pans to reveal Joseph obviously runs from the body in a frightened panic. He returns to his truck in a heightened state of regret and distress, almost vomiting and proceeding to cry out, begging to wake up.
Oh, please just wake up.
The scene lingers for an uncomfortably long time. We spend 5 minutes on Joe as he goes through these emotions. It's messy and pitiful, but it begins to bring the audience onto the same page as Joseph. We can't help but feel bad for him, because we know he truly didn't mean to murder the man in the woods. Joseph has such a childlike naivety that the idea of him accidentally killing someone feels more upsetting, as it feels as there is some sense of a loss of innocence.
It's not a leap for us to be with Joe and to think about like us in context to Joe. It being kind of a fable in many ways, that the audience would be like, if I were in the scenario, what would I do? What things would occur?
Eventually, Joseph collects his bearings as he notices the shovel and pickaxe in the back of the truck. In his eyes, there is only one natural way to fix this issue. On his way back, he keeps telling himself that the man was trespassing, telling himself that his actions were justified.
He's trespassing. I mean, I'm just standing my ground, right? I'm supposed to be on this property. He's not supposed to be on this property. So, I did a good thing. I mean, if some little kid had been on here, right? What if this guy was dangerous?
He returns to the site and begins digging a grave. Before we are treated to another twist. The man is still alive.
No. Wait, please don't run away. Please don't run away. Hey.
Joseph chases the man and tries to explain himself, but the man clearly doesn't want to hear any of it. He fights back at every chance he gets,
Hold on, just let me explain. Ow! Stop it, let me explain. Ow!
leading to Joe to accidentally crush his windpipe.
Please don't.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. No, I'm not. Just hold on. Let me help you. I'm just gonna help you set up.
And even though the man struggles to breathe, he and Joseph manage to have a conversation with each other. This man is only credited as Lone Wolf, and he's the epitome of everything that Joseph is trying to be, a skilled survivalist. The Lone Wolf takes no time to begin criticizing Joseph, stating that in a survivalist situation, it wouldn't make sense to hunt larger animals like deer.
In a working freezer, you can put it in when there's no power. As your freezer magically working, your fantasy. Small animals. How you survive?
Joseph keeps trying to help the Lone Wolf, but he keeps rejecting him, threatening to kill Joseph if he continues to try and help.
You keep touching me.
He then starts commenting on the patheticness of the situation. He talks down to Joseph for being an outsider.
You pick out them fancy catalog clothes you sell. Your mommy do it for you.
He then begins to comment on the irony of the situation.
Irony. Killed by a phony.
Yup. I'm a big phony. I'm at least trying. That was the whole point of this.
Joseph laments that he should have listened to his wife and stayed home to avoid all of this.
My wife didn't even want me to come out here today. She tried everything to keep me to stay at home. I'm just saying, it seems like the whole world's falling apart.
This revelation causes a slight change in the Lone Wolf's attitude.
There is no point to surviving. Just to survive. There's no point being alone.
There's no point to surviving just to survive. There's no point being alone. These are the final words of the Lone Wolf before he passes away.
So my optimism lies in community, and I think the survival of us, if apocalypse or anything occurs, is actually in the communal environment. Now, the pessimistic and scared side of me in doing this research was up in Idaho. There are all these militias. Said, well, what are you guys going to do if a collapse happens? So our plan is just to attack each one of those homes and basically take all of their resources. I have met people who very much the apocalypse is where they believe they'll shine. They're living below the poverty line right now, and it's like the second the apocalypse or whatever happens, it's like they believe their purpose is that life. Those people, they scare me.
The type would be the first to go. It goes down. I'm sorry.
While putting Lone Wolf into the grave, Joseph finds a picture of him with his family. Joseph buries Lone Wolf alongside any trace of the camp. Joseph is careful to cover his tracks. He He burns his bloody shirt. He begins to clean the blood off himself at the river when he imagines what it would be like for him to come back to his family.
Hey, sweetheart.
In this situation, Joseph is more noticeably stoic in his voice and mannerisms.
Fell in the river and decided to strip down and ride home with the heat on.
I'm sorry, I'll take you any way I can.
He has the confidence and attitude that he wishes he had, and as he is getting ready to have dinner with his family, the voice of Lone Wolf calling him a phony keeps running through his head.
Goodbye, phony.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Just need to get some food in me.
As Joseph's family is praying for their food, a graphic, exaggerated memory of what took place in the woods plays through Joseph's mind.
Joe.
We then return to Joseph standing in the river. Joseph goes back and digs up the body. He puts it into the truck, and while covered in blood, he returns to town and parks the truck in front of the police station. Walks inside.
He says, Pat, well, that's exactly what I said. And Pat, he just kind of walks up to him and says, no, ma'am, you said armadillo. Hey, Joey?
The officer sees him and
Joe.
notices
Hey,
that something
you
is
all right?
wrong. From the way that the officer talks to Joseph, it's clear that the officer knows and is fond of him. The very first thing he does is get a blanket for Joseph and ask about the safety of his family.
Tessie and the kids. Joe, are they hurt?
The officer finds the body in the truck and is forced to call it in and put Joseph in cuffs for questioning. Joseph is quiet the whole time, in a silent shock state. Even then, the officer is very respectful and patient with Joseph. After a moment of time, Joseph finally speaks. He talks about how he just wants to see his family.
I just want to see Tess. Yeah. All right, we can work that out. Sam. I just want to see the boys. Okay.
This line really stands out to me. This wasn't the place. I feel like it is an incredibly vital line in the scene. It begins to show Joseph's regret for his decision to bring in the body and turn himself in. The officer tells him to take his time and to talk whenever he's ready.
There's no rush. I am here. So whenever you're ready.
We cut to black before he says anything else, and the movie ends. Now, I would like to return to the main theme of the film and talk about the idea of perception. Joseph embarks on this hunting trip because he is self-conscious about how he was being perceived by the people in town. But what we've seen from every interaction Joseph had, nearly everyone respected him. Not as a masculine survivalist, but as who he truly was. The only one who reiterated Joseph's insecurities was the Lone Wolf, yet Joseph's actions are centered around maintaining what he thought would give him the best integrity.
And he goes into these woods to prove himself in an environment where nobody really cares. No one's encouraging it, but he feels this need to kind of prove this thing. And I was excited about these parallels, and both obviously are dangerous.
It's hard to say what exactly will happen to Joe after the movie, considering it's a small town where Joseph was respected, and with the circumstances around the incident, I don't find it likely that Joseph would spend hard time for what he did. However, no matter what happens, he will always be known by that mistake. That mistake is how his wife, his kids will see him, how he would forever be known in that town. Joseph changed his mind about leaving the body buried because he doubted that he could ever live with himself. Yet at the police station, he shows such a traumatic regret for doing it. He was in a lose-lose situation. The film scratches at a very morally ambiguous question that is left up to interpretation. What I believe is that Joseph returning the body to the police station, while the morally right thing to do, was the wrong decision for Joseph to make. Because the thought behind that decision was centered around himself. He did it so he can feel better about himself for what he did. Because of that, he is going to suffer and his family is going to suffer. While it might seem selfless, there is a selfish aspect to that decision. because the good that it would do would only be for his self-perception. I think this can be loosely tied with the final words of the lone wolf. There is no point to surviving just to survive. There's no point to being alone. The lone wolf lived by the ideas that Joseph strived for, and he ended up dying with regret. Joseph turning himself in was him surviving, but as he sat in the questioning room, it began to dawn on him the pointlessness of it. Morality is a social construct we developed based on our perception of the world around us. Its baseline is developed over generations of communication that leads to establishing a sort of common ground. Not everyone is going to have the same views of morality. This can be based on upbringing, personal experiences, and environment. But when you get down to it, it's all based on a matter of perception. What we view as moral draws parallels with what the world around us views as moral. It allows connections and bonds to be made with each other. Joseph's sacrifice was done for his perspective of what the moral thing to do would be. But because of that sacrifice, Joseph ends up alone. And there is no point in being alone.